Well, good evening. This is Chris White on the evening of Wednesday, July 26th. It's 8:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And this was a last minute put together idea to talk about, to set this hangout up and talk about the convective setups across Virginia here coming tomorrow, Thursday, and then again on Friday. Unfortunately, the other folks that I had attempted to get a hold of were not available tonight on short notice. And my co-host, Andrew Smith, is in Florida with family. He's on vacation. However, he did send me this. Let me screen share this for you. And he apparently is enjoying himself, but he's also keeping an eye on the weather. If you can notice, this is outside of Sarasota, Florida. And you can see there kind of in the middle, in the background, there's some mammatus clouds. So he's been able to keep an eye on storms down that way. So just to hop right into this, and probably won't take as long since I'm just going to run my mouth for a while. Let's go back to this two-panel display I've got here showing the Storm Prediction Center different day two looks, day two convective outlooks for tomorrow, for Thursday. The one on the left is the earliest one, and that was showing all of Virginia pretty much in a slight risk, extending back over to the southern Mississippi or central Mississippi Valley, across Kentucky and most of Tennessee. Well, the update the midday update, as you see on the right there, is everything's been shallowed out, if you will, to a marginal risk. And part of the reason for that is there's a lot of uncertainty about what exactly is going to happen. The models aren't that tight. The groupings aren't that tight with the results, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then there's some concerns about convective debris contaminating some of the outlooks, or some of the storms that may happen even on Friday. So we'll take a look at all that. And to talk about Friday, here is the day three outlook that was put out today, and you can see about half of the state of Virginia is under a slight risk, and then of course all of the Carolinas pretty much. So we'll take a look at all these, and then we'll see what we can come up with as a solution here. So let me stop sharing that. Well, there we go. Okay, took a little while. So having looked at the model solutions, and we'll take a peek at a few of them here, I centered in on the NAM and the GFS, because they are disagreeing a fair amount about what's going to happen tomorrow and then again on Friday. Disagreeing on timing. Essentially what's happening is, and I'll go through the models, but there's a long wave trough coming across, and with some shortwave wrinkles in it, that's diving down across the Ohio Valley. And the timing of those wrinkles, those short waves, is in doubt a little bit. Let's put it that way. The NAM has the short wave apparently diving a little further south and creating a low pressure area, as we'll look at, along a surface cold front that's going to sweep across southern Virginia. The GFS, of course, disagrees with that, and talks about that low pressure forming a little further north along the front, and then scooting up toward probably the Northern Virginia, DC area more on Friday. So, with those disagreements, it's kind of hard to get an idea, especially when we're only 24 hours out from tomorrow's solutions, tomorrow's activity, and then 48 hours from Friday. So we'll take a look at these, and let me go back to the screen sharing bit here and see what we can bring up. And let's look. Let's see here. I have to bring that up. Don't think that's what I want to do. I'm having trouble getting my, there we go. Let's see if that'll do it. Let's see. My screen is tending to hide itself. Ha, there we go. Bring up my browser. Okay, let's go back over to the browser here. Now, if we go back here, I think I've got the right one. Yes, I'm looking at the 18Z NAM update here for today. This is a little different, not much different from the 12Z. But here we have the 500 millibar map, the upper levels about 18,000 feet up. And this is looking at the absolute vorticity. And you can look here as I fast forward this over to, here we go at 12Z Thursday morning. You can see an area of vorticity here approaching with a short wave that's basically over the Midwestern states. And that over the next few hours tends to dive south and east into Virginia. So I'll stop it here at 21Z. And you can see that the area of vorticity, the upper level spin in the atmosphere, if you will, that's not a real good term for it, but that's what we'll call it, kind of dives into southern Virginia, south central Virginia. And then I fast forward this on to Friday, and you can see there's another couple of wrinkles that come through along with a bigger vorticity center up here near the Great Lakes later on Friday. Let's go back and then we'll take a look at 700 millibars, which is about 10,000 feet up, and look at vertical velocities as a result of those vorticity centers coming through. And here we have, again, the activity over the Midwestern states at 12Z Thursday, and then move it forward here to 21Z tomorrow, which is 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And you can see some areas of enhanced vertical velocity here, pretty much just east of the Blue Ridge here in southwestern Virginia, and another center up here, probably near the Harrisonburg area. And if I keep going here, those areas move on off. And then overnight on Friday, or I'm sorry, Thursday, early Friday morning, there's this other little short wave that starts dropping through with some more enhanced vertical velocities. At this point, mainly across northern Virginia. We're talking, here's Friday morning, this is 15Z, about 11 a.m. And then Friday afternoon to bring it across 21Z, starts crossing the mountains here. You got northern Virginia getting pretty heavily hit here with vertical velocities, and then bring it on across the bottom. So with that, with a look at that, I'm going to switch to surface products and look at the temperatures in the isobars, the pressures. Here we have, let me fast forward here to 12Z on Thursday, and you can see the beginnings of some surface low here starting up in the upper Midwest. We go forward on Thursday, and you can see that low now crossing into West Virginia. And then Friday, overnight Friday, I'm sorry, Thursday night into Friday, then we have the NAM suggesting that there's going to be some development here of this low over like southern and southwestern Virginia, southern and western Virginia, I should say. Now, I did take a sounding off here. Let me switch to this. This was at 18Z. This was actually off the 12Z run of the NAM. And here's a sounding basically slightly southeast of Lynchburg. I would call it the Brookneal area. And you can see there's a pretty good setup of upper level winds that back off to the southeast, which is a pretty good idea for overall storm rotation. You can see over here that is classified as a weak tornado. I don't know about that, but if we come down here and look at the storm relative helicities, they're pretty good here. In these 300 to 400 levels at surface to 1 and surface to 3 kilometers. But you can also see over here maybe it might be a little too small numbers, but the CAPE is not very high, and you can tell that by the separation between the temperature, the potential temperature, and the actual temperature. I mean, the profile temperature and the actual temperatures are not that different. So the CAPE is not that great, but there is a fair amount of rotation or a fair amount of storm relative helicity, which would be might provide some low-level rotation there. So that's the NAM's look at things. Let me just kind of run back here, and I'm going to switch to the which is the NAM, the NES, which is a 3 kilometer NAM. I'll get that out here in a little bit. We'll take a look at the reflectivities as a result of what we just looked at. Come on now. Here we go. And you know what? This is really not working right. I don't know what's going on. Let me go back to the 12Z. That looks better. I don't know what was wrong with the 18Z presentation. This is on the College of DuPage site, so they must have a problem with their 18Z run. Anyway, here is fast forward to 12Z on Thursday, and you can see what we talked about there, the upper level velocities and the vorticity, creating some showers and thunderstorms over the Midwest. And they dive down over the next few hours into southwestern Virginia. Here is 19Z about 3 o'clock, starting to enter western and southwestern Virginia. And then by 21Z or 5 o'clock, you've got what looks like some pretty good storm clusters here in southern and southwestern Virginia, with mainly what looks like stratiform rain out ahead of it. And then we go on through, you can see some storms here. So it looks like there will be some chaseable storms in southern Virginia tomorrow. It'd be interesting to see what this stratiform rain does and the clouds that may put out, and how that's going to affect the actual Cape values, instability values here. But if I keep moving this toward Friday, you can see overnight Friday, some of that upper level energy is pivoting through. And now we have, and this is 10Z, which is 6 a.m. And there's a lot of shower activity across Virginia, which you would think would dampen out some of the convection later on. If I keep pushing this forward, you see this line here starting to enter western Virginia about 13Z, about 9 a.m. And then keep coming forward. And most of Virginia looks pretty much like a mess. And so hence the differences, the uncertainties in the models in terms of what may actually happen with this. This is the NAM, 3-kilometer NAM is usually pretty optimistic, if you will, about storm formation and available moisture. And this is just looking like a confused mess. If I run this forward a bit, you can see there's another line that kind of forms behind all this in West Virginia. Start tracking across. And then in southern and southwestern Virginia, there's some stuff that pivots up around what looks like a surface low pressure here, perhaps over the Danville area, and further east to South Boston and Clarksville. So there may be some chasing going on down that way. I'm gonna definitely watch that on Friday afternoon and evening. But as far as tomorrow goes, I can see a few cells that might be worth chasing, starting say about 3 o'clock or so, south and south of around 460 and east of Roanoke. The rest of the state doesn't look like much, unless there's some stuff that kind of spins up over there near the Chesapeake Bay. A lot of it's going to happen overnight. So now, let me switch gears and let's go over to the GFS. This is the 12Z GFS from this morning. And this is the, without going through all the upper level stuff, this is the surface energy helicity, I'm sorry, the 0-3-kilometer energy helicity index, which is a combination of the Cape, the instability, and the storm relative helicity, or storm relative helicity, to get it right. So the darker colors, the brighter shadings give you an idea of where the stronger values are. Here's 21Z Friday afternoon. And you can see instead of, I'm sorry, Thursday afternoon, I'll get it right in a minute. See, I don't have anybody on here to correct me. But Thursday afternoon, you can see that the GFS is calling for the best values of combined Cape and storm relative helicities are really east of Interstate 95, rather than over here near Interstate 81 on the western side of the state, which is what the NAM was talking about. Then we'll move this forward to Friday. Here's Friday at 15Z, that's 11 a.m. Here's 2 o'clock. And then at 21Z, which is 5 o'clock, pretty much the center of the state has got a good combination of those two. So it's a bit of disagreement, and some of that disagreement comes in where the GFS thinks that this low pressure is going to form. Let me switch to the surface here, and we're going to forward this down to, here's 12Z on Thursday. Move this forward to 0Z, which is 8 p.m. on Thursday. And you can see that there's a trough here east of the mountains, which could provide some lift. And it looks like the best low-level backing winds would be up here in northern Virginia versus southern Virginia, as we saw a little earlier. Now let's move this forward to 18Z, 21Z on Friday. And you can see that, again, here in northern Virginia, in northern and central Virginia, are some backing winds with a low pressure system that's a bit further north, maybe, I don't know, maybe 75 to 100 miles further north than the NAM was talking about. So that would indicate that the storms would be better up here, say along the I-64 corridor, or maybe close to it. I did take a sounding from this 12Z run, basically the same place the NAM sounding came from, which was southeast of Lynchburg. And you can see here that over here, the overall description is marginal severe. Essentially, there's not a lot of CAPE. This is actually shows more CAPE than the NAM. It's over 1,000. Surface-based CAPE, it says about 1,900 CAPE. But the storm relative velocities are very low, under 100. So it's almost a factor of about 6 to 8 lower than the NAM was showing. So the low-level rotation, and that's pretty. You can see that by looking at the wind profile. There's some 25 knot winds at 500 millibars out, basically out of the west northwest, and then at the surface you've got very light winds, basically out of the west. There's not a lot of directional shear, and just a little bit of speed shear. 13 to 24 knots in that neighborhood. So not a lot of potential for severe storms there. And this would be again at 18Z on Friday, at the same time the NAM was. So the overall uncertainty about between the models is kind of interesting. And what I've looked at so far, let me stop sharing here. There we go. And what I've looked at so far, the other models, a couple of the WRF models that I could check out, the RAP and the HER, ARRR, as far as they'll extend out to into Thursday. Look like they're pretty much a blend of those two solutions we just looked at from the NAM and the GFS. So it's no wonder that there's confusion, being this close to an event 24 hours out, and the upper level and surface features don't really jive between the models. So we're going to have to basically do the Mark 1 eyeball tomorrow. I'll be keeping an eye on radar, certainly watching surface observations and satellite to see when and where things might be bubbling, looking for clear areas to see where the sun might be destabilizing the atmosphere, looking at dew points and seeing where the best moisture might be, and looking for things like moisture convergence, and then of course checking the SPC mesoscale page for things like where's the shear, the low-level shear and the bulk shear at 0.6 kilometer, things like that. So tomorrow's pretty much going to be looking at that, and then Friday will involve much the similar situation. Of course, I'll be looking at models as well, but any and all convection that happens tomorrow and tomorrow night into the wee hours on Friday will certainly affect what happens during the day on Friday, because then could have residual cloud cover to mess up where the instability might form. Certainly we'll have a low-level cold pools, outflow boundaries that could influence where other storms go up. So, the models, the short-term models, the ARRR and the RAP may not be all that effective in those environments until later in the day. I'm thinking, on Friday, maybe by about 14, 15Z, 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, might be a little bit a better idea about where things will happen on Friday. But it's going to be really a short-term look at it, a few hours out. So it's kind of hard to tell whether that the slight risk on Friday could verify. We'll see what the SPC says with their experts, when they come out with the day twos after midnight tonight that would cover Friday. But in the meantime, I still got my chasing gear ready. It's been a while since I've been out on a real chase. I've chased a couple of ho-ho setups, maybe not. Things will happen. But you never know with these things, especially, the marginal risk area is kind of like the old chasers would know as the C-text condition, which is only about a 5% chance of things happening. The great victory in chasing is finding a decent storm to chase in those conditions. And I actually did that back on the first week of this month, on July 5th, caught a couple of really nice supercells in southwestern Virginia and Patrick County on a 5% area. So it was a nice catch. It makes you feel good when you navigate to the right place, pick a storm, and it looks pretty good. So we'll see what happens tomorrow, and as well as Friday. But this will probably be it for Hangouts for another week or so. I'll be out of town, or I'll be literally out of pocket for a while, so I won't be able to chase in this area. I may be chasing other places, but you never know. So we'll see what happens with all that, and we'll sign off for now, and hopefully see some storms to chase tomorrow. Have a good one.